All right, so in part one of your project, um, you're just gonna input these numbers onto the actual network. I have a bunch of question marks here. If you click into here and um, you should be able to double tap into here. If you're not doing it, if you're doing it on actual Google Drive, mine right here is I have it on my iPad, so it doesn't necessarily change. Um, you should be able to do it where you input and change each of these. Right now it's on a view file. Sorry, that's the reason why. You need to, of course, file, make a copy. Share. Make a copy of yours. Make a copy of this part two. And when you do that, you should be able to double click into here and change all those question marks into the time distance it took to get to each one. Now, each of these arrows has a to and from. So like 0 to 1 is right there, 1 to 0 is right here. So each of them have a to and from arrow of going from a node to another node, from one vertice to the other vertice. In our part one of our project, we defined what 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 represent. 0, of course, representing a home. In your part one of your project, you wrote down your home address and you chose 4 other store locations across the city of Boston that you were going to visit, or 4 places in Boston that you were going to visit, such that you can buy a gift for somebody for Christmas. So you're just type that you made your matrix in part one. You put all the times, and you should have already got that done. All you got to do is just transfer those numbers onto here. That's the part. That's the third step of this project. And finally, in the last step of the project, and actually I need to edit this right here. I'll edit it right now. It should say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0. I need to change that to a 0. I'll do that right now, right when I'm finished with this one. Um, that right there should be going back to 0. So in other words, you have to go from 0 to 1. So what I'm asking you to do is to actually, at least in the most beginning, we're just going to do a round trip around the outside. So you're going to go from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and 4 to 6. I made it such those arrows, at least in this very first one, it's all the outside arrows. You're just adding those 5 numbers together, and that'll tell you the cost of that network path, closed network path, which is a circuit. Also, just in terms of that, if you just went from 0 to store 1, to store 1 to store 2, store 2 to store 3, 3 to 4, and then finally made your way back home, how long the travel time would take. Of course, there's the time you spend in the store. You found all those times, like I said, in part one. You're always starting at 0 and you're ending at 0. So I just helped you out. I want you to find 10 other possible ways that you can go about doing it. And of those 10, which one turns out to be the shortest? Which one turns out to be the fastest way to go? I doubt it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, then back to 0, but it could. So 0, 1, 2, 4, 3, 0, for example. 0, 2, 1, 3, 4. I mean, there's, the way you can do it is, you can go to 2 last, 0, 1, 3, 4, 2. So and this is like permutations when we talked about the different combinations. So I wanted you to leave these up to you in writing them because, you're using each one of them once. How many different ways can you do it? There are at least 10 different ways for which that can be done. Okay. Actually, there's 24 as it turns out. So I'm only asking you for 10 of them. There's technically 24 different ways. And that's your project. So for each of those closed paths, add up all the times. And once you've done part one, once you've done part two, you have completed Unit 4. And that'll be all that we have. Tomorrow is an asynchronous day. So what that means is that you'll check in for attendance purposes. And if you have not yet finished the project, you should work on finishing the project. You have the remainder of class to work on part one of the project. You have the remainder of class to work on part two of the project today. And then, of course, tomorrow. I put a due date of Wednesday. I want you to finish this before we head off to break. I put Wednesday morning, but of course, you should be able to even finish it today. If you can finish it today, then you can just focus on any of your other homework assignments that you maybe have missing still that are still outstanding. With that, I'm not going to put into breakout rooms necessarily. I'll just leave people, actually, well, if you have a question, I'll put you into a breakout room um, for the remainder of class. That's everything.